Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
We've spent the last 4 weeks helping savers understand why we love annuities. Now, let me share with you why savers love our WorryFree Split IRA Concept plus annuities.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, Tony Walker.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it, get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it. And it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.
An article in U.S. News on May 30th, 2018 entitled, let's see, let me get this straight. What if we all run out of money in retirement? Kind of a catchy article title, you got to admit. Cites a 2016 survey of more than 3,200 Americans from the financial firm Allianz. That's a company we represent, by the way. They found that more than 60% of baby boomers fear running out of their savings more than they fear death. 2017 annual Transamerica Retirement Survey. Transamerica surveyed over 6,300 American employees. These were between the ages of, actually it just says over 18. This survey found that 57% of Generation X respondents, 55% of baby boomers, both cite outliving their savings and investments as one of their greatest retirement fears. And this is interesting. 47% of millennials have similar concerns. The report goes on to say that baby boomers have saved an estimated median $164,000 in all of their household retirement accounts. Well, welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement, folks. I am your host, Tony Walker, and for the next few minutes, we are going to tackle what I think is one of the most ingenious, brilliant, I guess I would say this since I created it. If you don't mind, I'm with America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Orander. I really do, though. You're going to see this. We call this, what we're going to talk about today, the Worry-Free Split IRA Concept. And if you're just now joining us, you'll know for those who have been listening, for the past 4 weeks, we have been covering each week the 4 types of annuities. And then we promised, today's recording is January 14th, 2019, we promised that on the 5th episode, we would wrap this up to explain how we have figured out how to use these wonderful tools called annuities within a concept that allows maximum flexibility, maximum use of your money, maximum guarantees, and as all these surveys are citing, we will make sure that you as one of our clients do not run out of money. I'm just kind of quoting some of these articles because it is a huge deal, folks. Another article appearing in U.S. News entitled, I like this title too, How Living Longer Will Impact Your Retirement. Now, we've covered a lot of this in past episodes, the longevity aspect of things, and obviously, if you're talking about annuities, that's why annuities were created years ago, was to deal with this very tragic reality that people can run out of money. But what's happened is because the average consumer has been so reliant on their 401k or IRA or thrift savings account, what have you, and it's stockpiled with stocks and bonds, well, those are not guaranteed. So people are starting to realize that, hey, I really could run out of money, especially with this last stock market downturn last December, that they're at risk. As we're going to see later in the show, when you start pulling money out, it gets really scary. So we have to have some sort of investment strategy out there that, number one, again, provides flexibility, and number two, covers this issue of longevity. This article, again, we're citing from U.S. News. This came out in May also. How living longer will impact your retirement. It goes on to say that you better get your house in order, according to Marilyn Laponzi. She's the contributor on this. I don't know. That's a lot of help, quite frankly, but let's see what Ms. Laponzi has to say. It's the usual thing that comes across from many of these writers. I'm not trying to be critical, but okay, so we get it. You know, I'm in the financial trenches every day. I realize people can run out of money. I realize the average person is not saving enough towards retirement. America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron, I'm going to touch on this real quick. And then you know me, Aaron, I would never, ever belittle or make fun of or light of what's going on with our government. Again, as of the recording of this show, the government is partially shut down. Now, these workers who are electing to work, it's my understanding, Aaron, is that it's on furlough technically, so they're going to get their payback. Partial, yeah. So, but here's what's interesting to me, and it's kind of spooky. I mean, this is really unbelievable. Many of these people that they're interviewing, without one paycheck, cannot even make a month's worth of expenses. Now, let's think about this, folks. Some of these people are probably making $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 a year. And I told my wife the other day, I was watching one of these stories, and again, I understand. I feel sorry for them, but I'm thinking, well, there's people getting laid off all the time in the private sector and public sector. Here we go. But are you telling me that these people can't even make a mortgage payment? So it does remind me of something before we get into today's show with this going on. Many people have said this long before I ever mentioned this as a rule of thumb, but this is a really good rule of thumb, folks. Before you do any investing, and in my opinion, yes, even funding your 401k, listen closely. If you don't have 4 to 6 months, and I'm talking about liquid money, not annuities, not 401ks, not growth mutual funds, I'm talking liquid money in the bank where you can run down there and get it real quick. If you don't have 4 to 6 months of expenses in the bank, get it. And again, if that means putting off your 401k, yeah, even if it has a match, I mean, that 401k isn't going to help you any. If you're 45 years of age, I mean, yeah, you could borrow it out, but now you're getting behind the 8 ball. I'm talking about good old tax-free hard cash sitting in the bank. So, for instance, if you know your expenses, I'm talking about your basic expenses. I'm not talking about, going out to eat and all that. I'm saying your cell phone, the things you definitely need. It's arguable that you even need a cell phone, right? I mean, even in these times, you take that in cable. Yeah, Aaron, I wonder what that would run. I wouldn't even want to tell you what my cell phone and cable bill are. So yeah, a lot of these expenses that people say, oh my gosh, I can't afford my mortgage. Well, how much are you paying on your cell phone and all that other garbage? But anyway, enough to pay your mortgage, your taxes, your health insurance. I mean, if you don't have, let's say your expenses are $3,000, that means you need about $15,000 in the bank so that if something like this does happen to you, you get laid off or you get sick or hurt and can't work, you're able to cover the bills for a period of time. So the lesson learned here is not don't go to the work for the government in case the government shuts down. The lesson learned is no matter where you work, whether you're self-employed, government employed, or in the private sector, your first line of business is to get 4 to 6 months in the bank equal to your normal expenses. And you say, that's a lot of money, Tony. Well, it is a lot of money, but also it's a whole lot more stressful if you don't have any money. So you're going to have to do what you got to do. But I just believe that from my heart that you need to do that. Okay, back to this article. We're kind of quoting this whole idea. We've been talking about annuities. I'm leading somewhere, folks, so hang in there with me. This article is living longer and how it's going to impact your retirement. And this is why I want to quote this. Ms. Laponzi says the typical strategy, and this really came from Wall Street, is called the 4% rule. And I've always said this is the goofiest rule I've ever heard of, but again, it's a rule of thumb. So basically the 4% rule is based on the notion that most people live about 30 years. So what is the 4% rule? What the 4% rule from Wall Street says is, let's take your 401k, and just so I can do the math real quick, let's say it's worth $500,000. So what they're saying is whatever it's worth, you should be able to take out 4%. So you take out 20% the first year. Even if it goes down, you take out 4% the next year. Again, we're going to see this in just a second, how devastating this can be, this strategy. But anyway, you take out 4%, and the idea is that should last within normal market conditions about 30 years before you go broke. It doesn't look like there's much involved after 30 years. You're out of luck. They also recommend moving money into more conservative funds as you get older, and you don't want to have too much in cash because you can't beat inflation. So, folks, these are not really good recommendations. It's just kind of what Wall Street says to do because they don't know what else to do because there's no guarantees. So of the thousands of people I meet at Tony Walker Financial, and literally I've met thousands over the years, we have this documented. I've personally written and worked on well over 1,000 financial game plans, retirement plans. I've been doing this 34 years, folks. What I've discovered, if you're planning for retirement and you see things like this, government shutdowns, and there's a whole list of things we could go through, things that just come up that you hadn't planned on. I have to quote my late great father, and he always said this. He said, Tony, nothing stays the same. So no matter what you're doing, you can't predict the future. No matter how much you think you have, it may or may not be enough. You'd really have to do the best with what you've got. But my thinking is, if you're a saver and you're worried about money, I'm going to come back and show you how this split IRA concept works and why it works so well for savers, because we build in two things that are paramount to worrying less about money. Number one, flexibility to get your money when you need it. And number two, guaranteed mailbox money so you won't run out. I'll be right back. We'll get into this split IRA concept. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement.
It only happens one time, and just 140 people can attend. I'm Tony Walker, inviting you to a free screening of the breakthrough documentary, The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming, Tuesday, March 5th in Louisville. This shocking film reveals why you could be paying far more in taxes in retirement and how you can defend yourself. If you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, call to reserve your free ticket at 877-499-9255.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and we are concluding our series on annuities. And in case you're just joining us, the first four series we covered on the first one, there's four types of annuities, basically. Variable annuities, which we do not do and do not recommend savers do because of the risk and the high fees associated with them. Now, the three other annuities, we do sell those and provide those within our process. Those are fixed interest annuities, which actually are paying pretty good now. That you may be sitting there thinking, boy, I've got money languishing in the bank, or this recent stock market scared me to death. As of the date of this recording, we've got them paying with a good insurance company, well-rated insurance company, about 3.8% guaranteed for a period of 5 to 6 years, depending on those terms, but we can talk to you more about that. We also have the fixed indexed annuities. We're one of the leading individual producers of fixed indexed annuities in the country. We know those products really well. And then we also, from time to time, provide what's called immediate annuities. Those probably most resemble granddad's pension. Those are the ones when you start them, you can't stop them. And immediate annuities, again, are paid for the rest of your life. So basically, the idea is annuities are the only product that's guaranteed. I'm using the word guaranteed. The last segment we talked about the Wall Street's rule of the 4% rule, which is not guaranteed. And I'm going to share that with you in a second, the potential devastation of that rule. But with annuities and the guarantees, we're saying the annuities can guarantee you won't outlive your money. Actually, Aaron, that's not really true. I won't go into the details of this, but really an annuity has a maturity date. This confuses a lot of people. They think that's the surrender value or the surrender term. The maturity date is really when the annuity ends. And since an annuity is a contract, there has to be a date out there in the future. So most recently issued annuities, the maturity dates are age 114. And while most people say, well, I'm not going to live that long, but in case you did, in that example, the income would stop at age 114 because the contract matures. That's what that really means. My clients aren't too worried about that. I had a guy told me the other day, he said, Tony, if I'm 114, I probably won't even know where I am, much less whether I've got mailbox money, and would probably care less. All right, so we covered this in previous shows. This is really, really important, though, because if we're trying to figure out, okay, let's set the stage. Let's say, and we do a lot of these, so let's say you're sitting out there right now, particularly if you're over the age of about 55. This is where this comes into play. You're at halftime, maybe you just retired, you're thinking of retiring, you're getting more serious about planning for retirement. That's generally what we see. Incidentally, we did have to institute a new policy. You have to have at least $50,000 now in investable assets for us to put you in one of these split IRA concepts. We've had to raise our minimums just due to cost and other factors, so just be aware of that. But anyway, let's say you have, again, $300,000 in a 401k. Maybe you've had an old 401k you rolled into an IRA. Maybe you're eligible for a lump sum pension, thrift savings account, 403b at the hospital where you work, whatever it is. You're thinking, all right, what am I eventually going to do with that when I retire? And most people really don't know. Sometimes people just leave it there at the employer. Well, that's not very good. You don't get any planning with that. Many people are targeted with these dinner seminars. Folks, these people know that you are desperate for help. They know you're going to have to invest that money somewhere. This is why when you turn 55, you're getting bombarded with dinner seminar invitations, because they know you've got probably a 401k or IRA. They're kind of easy pickings, and everybody's after them. So that's why everybody's sending you dinner seminar invitations. They're trying to get to know you and proposition you with moving over to them. So that's all well and good, but when you get over there, let's say you move your money to them, what are they really going to do with it? They can slap it in an annuity or throw it in an investment account, but how is that actually going to play out for the rest of your life? And this is where we see most people don't have what we call a retirement game plan. That's what we do, and that's why I came up with this split IRA concept. So let's first talk about it and say you didn't know anything about the split IRA concept. Maybe somebody's talked you out of annuities, so you're willing to throw all your money at Wall Street and hope things work out. So we've got a $300,000 401k, and you roll that over to an individual IRA with Wall Street, all right? So the first year, we're going back in time a little bit. We're going to kind of imagine we're approaching 2008. Remember 2008 of the great crash when the market went down, the S&P went down 37%. But anyway, 3 years prior to the great crash of 2008, you got your $300,000. Let's say you decide to take out $20,000. You're thinking, Tony, I really need some money, and I think I'll take out $20,000. I'm going to take out more than the 4%. So you take out the $20,000, and the market that year made almost 5%. So at the end of the year your balance went from $300 to $293. But you're not really worried about that. The market did pretty well, and I would say, hey, good for you. The next year, you start off with $293,000. Now the market went up over 15%. This actually happened. So you take out your next 20, but at the end of the year value, you've got $316,000. You're looking really good. The next year, let's say you're age 62. We're in the year 2007. The market goes up a little over 5%. You're $316,000. After taking out $20,000 of income, it's still $313,000. So I would say, first of all, that is really good. I mean, quite frankly, nobody's going to argue with those returns. You've had some good market returns. You've been able to take out a lot of money, quite frankly, and you got more than you started. And then we fast forward into the world of unpredictability. This is the thing that's funny with the pundits all sitting around trying to explain what happened with the market. I watched all these cable shows in December when the market was plummeting, and just the array of opinions and different things and why it's going down and what you should do and hang in there. And all that's well and good if you're maybe 40 years of age, but if you're drawing income, as we're getting ready to see here in a minute, this is really, really scary stuff. Even our clients, we have quite a bit of money with our Charles Schwab platform. And while we don't have much of our clients' money in the market, there was a little bit in the market, and we had clients that were, quite frankly, very, very flustered and wondering, Tony, hey, what in the world's going on here? Which we reminded them that if we're in the stock market, even a small amount can make a difference. We since then, they can still keep those portfolios, but we've created something you might be interested in too. By the way, it's called the Ultra Conservative Portfolio. We will manage this for 0.6%. I'll personally oversee it if you're interested in this. You'll have zero in annuities and zero in the stock market, complete liquidity for most of the account, and the idea is guaranteed principal with a small yet flexible amount of return. So that's available to you. You could go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com if you wanted to talk to me about that. It's called the Ultra Conservative Portfolio. But anyway, moving down, so 2008 hits here. We're back to our example. You got $313,000 at the beginning of the year. You're taking your $20,000 out like you did the previous 3 years, and wham, 37% downturn, which brings your account down at the end of the year. Okay, make sure you're buckled up riding down the road here. Brings your original $300,000 down to $184,000 and some change. $184,000. So now in this example, this person's only 63. They retired at 60. And the question is, now what? I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to take $20,000 out? Are you going to wait for it to come back? What if the market kept going down? And we use these examples to try to help people understand that we have a solution to this problem. The problem is nobody can predict the future and nobody can time the stock market. The issue is you got to have income, though, and you need it guaranteed for the rest of your life, as these articles are talking about. All right, so when I come back, I've set the stage. We realize you can't put all your money with Wally World if you're a saver. You can't depend on this 4% rule or whatever. You sure can't take money out when the market's plummeting. So what do you do? The WorryFree Split IRA to the rescue. I'll be right back to explain the details and how you can take advantage of it.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? For a limited time, 5-time author and retirement specialist Tony Walker is making available his latest book, Mailbox Money for Life. For your free copy, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
It only happens one time, and just 140 people can attend. I'm Tony Walker, inviting you to a free screening of the breakthrough documentary, The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming, Tuesday, March 5th in Louisville. This shocking film reveals why you could be paying far more in taxes in retirement and how you can defend yourself. If you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, call to reserve your free ticket at 877-499-9255.
We're going back and quoting some of these statistics of the amount of people. 55% of baby boomers, their greatest fear, according to a Transamerica Retirement survey of 6,300 American employees, this was back in 2017, their greatest fear is running out of money. So we've got the answer for that, folks. And for the last 4 weeks, we've explained to you why annuities are the only guaranteed contractual investment, if you will, that can make sure you last as long as your money and vice versa. Now, let's kind of use an example. This is, I could give you, 1,000 of these, but let's kind of take an example of how do we work? How do we approach somebody, or they approach us more than likely? I had a guy that came in the other day from Lexington, Aaron. We're now on a Lexington TV station, and he came over to see us, and he said, Tony, you know what I like about your all's approach? Everybody else seems to chase the money. You let the money kind of chase you. And I thought, well, I guess that's true. We kind of do all the marketing, but we don't strong-arm people, and we just assume when they're ready to meet, we'll be happy to meet with them. And so that's what the gentleman's saying. So, yeah, most people, you're like hearing a radio show. This might be you now. You might be sitting there going, hey, this all makes sense. I'm going to call Tony and set up a time either over the phone or in person, and that's how we work. So we're not going to drive you crazy. If you call us, if you'd like to meet, we'd be happy to meet with you. If you want to just talk by phone, that's fine as well. So this is a typical deal. I've got a 401k. Somebody calls up, and Tony, I've got $400,000. Let's see what assumption we made here. Yeah, we got a 62-year-old fella. He's worked in manufacturing all of his life. He also has a lump sum pension of around $350. Those are rare, but this person in this example has one. His wife is about the same age, and this does happen sometimes. One spouse may want to keep working. In this case, his wife likes her work. She doesn't want to retire, and she's looking at maybe retiring in about 3 years. And I asked him if he would continue to work somewhere, and he said, well, maybe part-time, see how it goes. I had a guy the other day, Aaron, he retired, and in 2 weeks he's already back to work. He thought, I can't take this. So you never know, folks, at what age you retire. And, you just have to, you got to put your foot in the water and see what happens. Some people love it. Some people want to go back part-time. There's no right or wrong answer in terms of how you will actually deal with your retirement. The key is make sure you have a retirement game plan, and that's what we're talking about today, with the flexibility that can be modified for income. A lot of people, we love annuities, but some people will just slap you all in annuities. Well, if you're not careful, you have no flexibility when you do that. We don't put 100% of people's money in annuities as much as we love them, because then it removes the flexibility you're going to need, especially when you're in this age group that we're talking about in the 60s. That's when most people have probably more changes and need more flexibility. So let's see. Also, this person, if they took Social Security now, it was going to be $1,600 a month. If they waited to their full retirement age, it was going to be about $2,600 a month. Now, this comes up a lot. People say, well, Tony, does the Social Security, does that fall into the worry-free split IRA concept? Well, technically, no, But when we run an income plan, we will use the split IRA concept with the Social Security. We have a full-time person that's licensed and certified in Social Security planning on staff. So we build that into the plan. We make sure that we're thinking clearly on when to take Social Security, whether we delay it or go on and take it at an early age. So in this case, we won't get into when we took Social Security. This person also owed about $150,000 on the home, had some consumer debt, was okay with the home debt, but did not like the consumer debt. And this person had very little in savings. And you might say, well, gosh, Tony, I thought you said they had $700,000-800,000 in retirement accounts. How come they don't have any savings? Well, I see this a lot because a lot of you have been told and taught, just like we said at the first of the show, to max out your 401ks. So the problem is you have not set up any plans for what I call tax diversification. You don't have any liquidity unless you want to yank it out of the 401k and pay a bunch of taxes. So this is why along the way, if you're still working and saving, don't max out your 401k if you're not putting some in savings. Do both. And then when you get your savings built up to 15, 20,000, then go back if you want to some other strategies we can talk about. But you've got to get that savings up there. And here's why. This fella said, when I retire, Tony, I want those, it was credit cards and a home loan that was a car loan, of about $30,000. He wanted that paid off. And I said, well, where are we going to get that money? And he said, well, I don't know. I guess I'll take it out of my 401k. And I had to remind him that all of that money is taxable. And with his wife still working, that was not a smart idea. So, again, boy, it'd been nice if he'd along the way built up a savings, stayed out of this consumer debt. But nevertheless, what we're going to do in this case, we're going to set up the split IRA. We'll have the first leg of that IRA. That'll be our Charles Schwab account. This person will have the opportunity to choose an ultra-conservative account where he's pretty much 99% sure that he's not going to have any risk to his principal. And he can go all the way to what we call moderate, which in our moderate portfolios, we have no more than 35% in the stock market. So either way, anywhere from ultra-conservative, conservative to moderate, he's not going to have a ton of risk. And so we decide on what we're going to put in that Schwab bucket. The second bucket is what I call the annuity bucket or the mailbox money bucket. Now, in this bucket, we'll go a larger percentage of his assets. That's because we want guarantees, and we want to make sure that that bucket continues to grow, which it will, until such time as he draws his mailbox money. Now, here's where a lot of people in Wall Street do not understand annuities. They start talking about surrender charges. Well, we've had a few. We've written over 2,500 annuities. I think I can count on two hands how many surrender charges we've incurred. And now that we've gotten even more, we've kind of perfected the split IRA concept, we hardly ever have them. And that's because we know how to manage this process. So what happens with the split IRA, we have access to the Schwab at any time you want, any amount you want. It's all handled in our office, so you don't have to deal with Schwab directly. We just use them as a custodian, and we've got a full-time person that will be your point person. You need money, we sweep it over to your checking account. We withhold the taxes. We take care of all of that for you. And we do that for a low fee of 0.6% a year. That's one of the lowest fees in the industry, especially for all the work we do. And then that other bucket is in the annuity or annuities, depending on the setup we have. And that bucket is going to grow at a guaranteed rate, assuming we use what's called an income rider. And then we can either transfer money out over to the other bucket to backfill the Schwab, or we can kick in mailbox money. So here's what I'd like you to do. If you've got a 401k, IRA, money languishing in the bank, and you really feel like you need a process that's simple to monitor, provides some guarantees, provides access to your money, and provides a way to not run out of money, why don't we meet in person or talk by phone? It's easy to do. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once there, just click on that Let's Get Started button, and we will make that happen. We'll either meet in our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky office, whatever is convenient for you. Again, it's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've enjoyed being with you. Good stuff coming next week, but you remember between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.